My name is Calvin Mackie, and I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. As a matter of fact, I sit in New Orleans right now. I was born and raised in New Orleans. I left for 10 years and went to school. And after going away to school, I came back to work in my community. And today I really want to talk about achieving personal greatness, overcoming adversity. Because many of us, Danny talked about the elders that may be on a call or the professionals that may be on a call that otherwise may be looking to change their career or do something different. We have young people on the call looking forward to their careers. But I want to promise you in life that if you go out looking for honey, you must expect to get stung. And what that means is that we see success, we see achievement, we see all of these great things in the world, and we see it as honey without realizing that when you go after honey, there are bees, there's barriers, there's hurdles out there, and you will get stung. And the question is, how do we overcome that? Because that's where we are now. We're in the middle of COVID. Upward of 20 million people are out of work. But this isn't the first time we've dealt with this as a nation. We dealt with the dot-com bubble that busted in 2000 and millions of people was laid off. Myself personally dealt with Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and thousands of people died in my hometown. My family lost houses. We had the housing crisis in 2008 when the stock market precipitously dropped and President Obama was ushered in. He had to save the economy and millions of people was laid off. However, COVID is somewhat different because those things, the housing market touched pretty much everybody to a certain degree. The dot-com bubble touched everybody. Hurricane Katrina was kind of tied to the southern part of the United States, but COVID is impacting the world. And is there ever a time when everyone is getting stunned at the same time? It is now. Right here in America, we have nearly 250,000 people that have passed away. New Orleans, like the city of New York, was a hotspot at the beginning of COVID. So I know at least 10 people personally that have died and, and made their transition and passed away for COVID. So for me, COVID is not academic. It's not something on the news. We're living it every day. And my story to you, my message to you is that no matter what you decide to do in life, no matter what race you are, what gender you are, no matter what you decide to do in life, adversity will come your way. And the question you're going to have to answer is what do I do? How do I handle adversity when it come our way? The sad part about it, in a place called America, many of us are born into adversity. Many of us are born, and the day we open our eyes, the whole world seems to be stacked against us. But I'm here today to let you know that regardless of who you are and where you was born, regardless of your background, this is still the greatest place in the world. This is a place where you can get up tomorrow and create a better world for yourself, your family, your community, and your children. You see, I used to be a professor at Tulane University. I was the first and only African-American ever tenured in the history of the College of Engineering at Tulane University. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the greatest engineering disaster in the history of this country, when a federal mandated and protected levees that protect New Orleans collapsed. The hurricane actually, the eye hit Mississippi, but a Cat 3 hurricane during the wake of the storm hit New Orleans, and those levees collapsed. My family lost 29 houses in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And I'll never forget, I saw people on the street corner with signs saying, "Help me, help me, help me." And from that point on, I made a promise that never again do I want to see any of our children, any of our elders, any of our relatives, anybody I know, anybody I care about on a corner saying, help me, when they otherwise could have helped themselves. There was things that we could have done to prepare ourselves just in case a hurricane came. And people got lax and they didn't do it. And I'm here to tell you, and you know, especially the students, if you don't get the lesson, you have to take the test again. In 1965, a hurricane hit New Orleans called Hurricane Betsy. In the lower night water of New Orleans, they picked people off the roof. 40 years later, in 2005, some of the descendants of those people who was picked off the roof again because they didn't get the lesson. And all of these events that we may go through in our lives, they are lessons. And that's why it's important for you to learn from people that have gone before you, because they can teach you how to deal with the adversity when it comes to you. I was a professor, and the hurricane hit. 8 people moved into my house. I never forget, I showed up to work, and Tulane made an unbelievable decision. Tulane University the richest university in the state of Louisiana, one of the richest private institutions in the United States of America, decided to keep the football team and eliminate the engineering program. They eliminate the engineering program. So as the first and only African-American ever tenured in the history of the College of Engineering, I was shown the door. I lost my job. The football coach called me and he said, Kelvin, who ever thought that I'll still be here coaching football and you'll be gone as a tenured faculty member? And I said, maybe the young men in the inner city got it right. He said, what do you mean? I said, maybe I should have been doing wind sprints when I was studying calculus, because the message that Tulane University sent to the children of New Orleans is the message that many universities are sending to children all across this country. And that message is you can come to this university and run that rock, dunk that ball, hit that hill, stop, drop it like it's hot and entertain us, but don't think about coming to this university and getting a science, technology, engineering, or mathematics degree and saving yourself and your community from the next natural disasters. Sir, I want you all to know that is not a message for you. If a door is not open, we need you to kick it open. And if you're already on the other side and you went through that door, we need you to make sure that you hold that door open so other people can come behind you. And that's why I went to Tulane, to be there for my Black and Hispanic students, so they'll have a role model, somebody they could come and see and talk to. And my students were distraught. They said, Dr. Mackie, what are you going to do? I said, look, I got skills, I got the right assets, I got the right mindset, I'll be okay, but I need you all to focus. And I went home that day. And when I got home that day, 8 people had moved into my house. And, you know, when I opened the door, my 2 sons ran to me and I kissed them, Miles and Mason. I said, I love you, sons. And right there in the middle of the floor, the little train was playing by itself. I went in the kitchen and my wife, Tracy, was cooking for everybody. And she had the red beans on, she had the catfish on, she had the shrimp etouffee on, and she was making a famous potato salad. Her potato salad is so smooth, sometimes I just rub it on my face. I kissed her, I said, I love you. And she had the air conditioning vent on, they had the air condition on, they had the window open. I just saw money going out the window. My little nephew had moved in with me. And my little nephew was in a corner with the radio on, the TV on. He had his iPod plugged in, his computer plugged in. And I'm like, look, man, can you turn something off? My older brother had moved in with me. He had lost his house in Hurricane Katrina, and he's upstairs. And he's upstairs by himself. And he's upstairs by himself with the lights on, with the air conditioner on, with the TV on, with the computer on. And I'm like, look, can everybody just come downstairs and get in one room? And Sear, my daddy, had moved in with me. My dad dropped out of school in the 8th grade to pick cotton. And I never forget when my first time I went down to McAllen, I went down to Edinburgh, and the school district brought me to Edinburgh to speak, and I flew into McAllen. And when I was flying over Edinburgh and McAllen, I saw these big things in the fields, looked like school buses. And when I got to McAllen, I got my rental car, was driving down the interstate, and I looked to my right, and I said, what is that? And I saw cotton. And I got out of the car and I called my dad and I said, Dad, for the first time I see cotton. He said, son, that's what I did. When I grew up, I was picking cotton. And that night when I went out with the school district people from Edinburgh, and I said, 1, how did you all find me? And 2, why did you invite me? And they said, when we heard your story about your father growing up picking cotton, about your father dropping out of school in the 8th grade, that's the story of our people down here in Edinburgh and McAllen, Kelvin. We need you to tell the people your story. We are one and the same. We may be as separate as the fingers, but as Booker T. Washington said, we are whole as the hand. And Kelvin, as long as we stay together and share these stories and empower each other, we can have all the success we want in America. And I never forgot that day in Edinburgh and McAllen. And my dad grew up picking cotton, didn't have the opportunity to come to school, moved to New Orleans. And a week before Hurricane Katrina, he was diagnosed with level 2 lung cancer. The Monday of Hurricane Katrina, he was supposed to get his treatment, but we had to evacuate from this gigantic storm. It took us 6 weeks to find him, put him back in the system. When we put him back in the system, the water had destroyed all of his records, so they couldn't re-diagnose him. It took him 2 more weeks in a disenfranchised medical system to re-diagnose him. By the time they re-diagnosed him, the cancer had spread to all over his body. And this big old strong man who dropped out of school in the 8th grade to pick cotton, who sent 6 kids to college. And the aftermath of this hurricane lost his business, he lost his dream house, and eventually he was losing his life. And I thank God at that time that I had done something with my life, that my daddy was able to move in with me. I looked at my daddy in the corner. He was on hospice, his oxygen machine plugged in. And I thought all these people are dependent upon me, and I lost my job. In Syria, I began to think. I began to think about the lessons that my mom taught me. My mom said a job may be your resource, but God is your source. But I remember the lesson that my daddy taught me. He said, son, you better get some skills to pay the bills. And every day you better get up and go out and hunt and kill, or you shall not eat. Since I had 4 STEM degrees at the time, I went out and I started an alternative energy company where we take waste streams and convert to biofuel and sell into the petroleum industry here in New Orleans, such that me and my family never have to depend on another man, another woman, another government to do for us what we otherwise can do for ourselves. And that's the beauty of America. If you get the skills to pay the bills, the man or woman who doesn't have skills ask people how much they pay. The man or woman who does have skills tell people how much they charge. If you get the skills that you need in the 21st century, you can go out and tell people how much you charge. And all of us can be upskilled. Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century would not be he or she who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. It'll be he or she who cannot, he said, the illiterate of the 21st century would not be he or she who cannot read and write. It'll be he or she who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So all of us who's at this conference, we're challenged every day with unlearning the things that we no longer need, learning the things that we need so that we can participate in the 21st century. When Hurricane Katrina hit, that could have been the end of my dreams. That could have been the end of what I wanted to do in my life and for my family. Universities began to call and say, Kelvin, will you join our university? And I said, no, I don't think that's for me. So I doubled down and committed to my community, because that wasn't the first time I've been through adversity. You see, growing up in the city of New Orleans in a house with no books, I started college in remedial reading and developmental mathematics. When Danny told you you didn't have to be the smartest or the brightest, I am that example. But Danny said, but you got to work hard. When I got to college, I started in remedial reading, developmental mathematics. My SAT score was so low. When I got my SAT score back, it read 840, and I was so ignorant, I thought I had 84%. And I went to school, and my teacher said, Kelvin, how did you do on the SAT? I said, I did great. She said, how did you do? I said, I got 84%. She said, Kelvin, I never heard the test explain the percentages before. She said, Kelvin, what's your score? What's your total score? Ignorantly and confidently, I looked at it and I screamed, 840. She said, no, boy, you got some issue. She said, Kelvin, the test is not out of 1,000, the test is out of 1,600. You don't have 84%. You barely have 50%. You need to go take that test again. And due to my background and my socioeconomic background, the house I grew up in, I couldn't get my scores any higher. And I was admitted conditionally into a college called Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. And I went to Morehouse, they laughed at the way I talked. They laughed at the way I talk because I'm from New Orleans and we talk funny. I was saying things like, I'm about it, how you do that there, and I'm the man right here, you heard me, little Wody? It's off the heezy for sheezy up in here, cousin. You see, I'm bilingual. You don't have to come here via Ellis Island or the Rio Grande or the Statue of Liberty and be a person in need of English as a second language. Nobody was conjugating the verb to be in my house. It was I be, we be, you be, all us be up in here. They said, no, boy, don't pass go. They said, go directly to remedial reading. And see, they put me in a building, in a basement of a building with 8th graders. And every day they would let the words go by faster and faster and faster. And every day I read and I read and I read. And every day I laughed and I laughed. My friends laughed and they laughed and they laughed. But after 3.5 years, after starting Morehouse College in Atlanta in remedial reading developmental mathematics, I finished Morehouse #1 in mathematics, #5 in the largest class Morehouse ever graduated, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. And when I finished Morehouse, they said, who'd ever thought you'd come to Morehouse and do the things you've done? They said, Kelvin, what are you gonna do now? I said, I'm going to Georgia Tech. It's only 1.5 miles away and a $1.50 bus ride. When I was coming out of high school, Georgia Tech wouldn't even give me an application. 2 weeks later, I started Georgia Tech. 18 months later, I finished my second undergraduate degree, a BS in mechanical engineering. 2 years after that, I got a master's in mechanical engineering. And 4 years after that, in 1996, I became one of 11 African Americans to receive a PhD in mechanical engineering. Now, Seer, I didn't get on here today to brag. I got on here today to tell you that story to let you know that each and every one of us been impregnated with something so great, such that if we give birth to it, it'll make Bill Gates look like a midget in the annals of history. And I know there are people on here from Puerto Rico. And I remember when I got my PhD, and my friend Jorge Gonzalez had gotten his PhD, and he was teaching at University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. And he said, my friend, come down to Puerto Rico. And we went down to Puerto Rico in Cabo Rojo, and we partied and we celebrated, because nobody ever thought me and Jorge, when we entered Georgia Tech, would do and accomplish what we accomplished as two Black and brown boys coming through a system in an environment that was hostile to us. But I'm here today to let you know, there's not a system hostile enough to stop you from achieving what's inside of you. Everything you need to succeed and overcome the adversity before you, regardless of how deep it may be, or regardless of how light it may be, you have it within you. There's 3 things I want to leave you with, 3 things you need to focus on every day. And when you study these 3 things every day, that prepares you to deal with adversity when you come your way. One of them that I've mentioned is skill set. All of us got to have a skill set. In the 21st century, you got to have a skill to pay the bills. That's why companies come to SEER, and SEER exists to make sure that people in the community are getting the skills they need, not for yesterday, but the skills of tomorrow. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you really don't need a 4-year degree to participate. You can get certifications and have the jobs and achieve within many industries in this day and age. There's many apprenticeship opportunities now coming down from the federal government that you can get upskilled and retrained in. So you got to have a skill set. I have 2 sons, and they're getting ready to go to college. But I told my sons that education and skills, that's not the same thing, sons. You know, this education is this reading, this writing, but the question is, what can you do? At the end of the day, what can you produce? My daddy was a roofer, and he raised 6 kids and sent them to college with a hammer in his hand. And if my dad can send 6 kids to college with a hammer in his hand, then I know Calvin Mackie, with 4 STEM degrees and a PhD, should be able to transform our whole community. That's the inspiration my daddy gave me by just having a skill set. The second thing you must have is assets. And that's why conferences like this is so important. That's why it's very important for you to hear from astronauts like Danny and know that things are possible. Because we think assets are the money. And of course, in a capitalistic system, right after oxygen, you better have some capital, but that's not the most important thing. You better have the right people in your life. Anywhere you want to go, it's about relationships. If you want to be successful in real estate, it's location, location, location. If you want to be successful in life, it's relationship, relationship, relationship. Yes, you have to know something, but also the question is, who do you know? Because if you know a lot and no one knows you, then nobody know that you know anything. So the real assets are the people in your life. If you want to know how you got to where you are now, look at the 5 people you hung out with 5 years ago. If you want to know where you're going to end up in 5 years from now, look at the 5 people you're hanging with right now. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I had an unbelievable experience. My friend, Cedric Richmond, Congressman Cedric Richmond, was one of the people that President-elect Biden has selected to come to the White House as his senior aide. And while he was making his announcement that he was resigning as congressman, and he was going to do what's in the best interest of the community and go to the White House and advocate for more legislation and more funding to, to reverse the trends that we are facing in our communities, I began to think about how 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, when he wasn't even a public official, how we used to go fishing together, how we used to tell each other our dreams, and how when I would have a failure, I would call him and tell him. When he have a failure, he'll call me. And when he ran for Congress the first time and didn't win, I said, look, man, delayed does not mean denied. Delayed does not mean denied. What do you have to do differently? What do we have to reorganize? Remember, organized people beat organized money any day. Let's work hard to organize the people and let them know what it is that you're going to do for them, and the people in turn will respond to you. He had the right assets. He had the people behind him. And now he's gone from New Orleans public schools to the White House. And it had a lot to do with the assets. So you all make sure you network. Make sure you get in the chat. Make sure you introduce yourself to people, because the people that you're on this conference with and the people that you're going to bump into in your life, those are the people that's going to help you get to where you want to be. So after skill sets, you better have some assets. But guess what? Skill sets and assets are not enough. After you have some skill sets, after you get your assets, you better have the right mindset. My grandmother used to tell me, baby, first you get the mind and the behind shall follow. Now all of us on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook showing our behind. Now all of us on Facebook, but won't put our face in a book. Now all of us tweeting and twatting and twerking, but won't do the things necessary that we can create the next technological company where people are coming and make investments in us so we can create a company for the 21st century to employ people in our communities and in our families. You know, I would sit around all the time and say, why everybody else get to have the fun? Why can't I not do that? And I told you I lost my job, lost a six-figure job at 37 years old. I told you I started school in remedial reading. And you said, Kelvin, what else? My God, what else? You know, and I said, I'd never forget in 1994, when I was working on my PhD. My brother and sister were in middle school. My mother called me at the tender age of 51 and told me that she had been diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. And for months, I was flying back and forth between Atlanta and New Orleans, trying to see my mom and try to take care of my little brother and sister. And my mom was dying from cancer. I never forget the day when she passed away and the undertaker came to her house and moved her body. And I'm in graduate school trying to finish this thing called a PhD. And the only thing my mother wanted for all of her children was that when her eyes closed, she wanted to know that they were going to be okay. So I had to commit to my mom on a dying bed that my younger brother and sister was going to be all right. And me and my younger brother went outside and we fought like cats and dogs till my knuckles was bloody, till his lips were swollen, because he was saying this isn't fair. And I told him the world isn't fair. You can't be bad. Michael Jordan got 3 children and you're not one of them. Everything you need to achieve in this world, your mother has implanted in you. We need you to do the hard work. We need you to commit to it and get up every day, put one foot in front of another, and know that you live in a country that your dreams can come true. I went back to Atlanta, and for 2 years, I'm flying back and forth. 2 years, my younger brother and sister in school trying to finish. They're heartbroken because they're 14 and 15 years old and they don't have a mother. My father, a roofer, he had never taken care of the house. He's going to work. He's like what to do. The family was in disarray, but we never lost faith. And we never took our eyes off the prize. And every day, everybody got up and kept working. Every day, everybody committed to getting better. Every day, everybody committed to making sure that the younger brother and sister had a skill set. The assets in the communities, the principal at the schools, the teachers who taught in the community passed by the house and let me know, send me emails, say, I saw your younger brother and sister, they look like they're doing okay. Things are gonna happen. The world is gonna challenge you. I don't care how rich you are, the world is going to challenge you. Doesn't you find it amazing that how many of these rich athletes and rich entertainers have so many problems? It's, of course, they got skill sets. Of course, they got access in terms of money. But maybe they don't have the right mindset. Maybe they don't have the mindset to handle the success. Maybe they don't have the mindset to handle the money. Maybe they don't have the mindset to handle all of the fake people that success and money will attract. When you got the right skills and you got the right assets and you develop a mindset of persistence, you develop a mindset of steadfastness, when you develop a mindset of don't quit, when you develop the mindset that you know that life is going to knock you down, and when life knocks you down, the only thing you ask God to do is make sure you fall on your back, because if you fall on your back and you can look up, guess what? You can get up. And I've been knocked on my back, and life will knock you on your back. And COVID has knocked many people on their back. But every day I get up and I refuse to live without hope. My saints can lose who that. I can live without gumbo. I can live without Mardi Gras. The mayor just canceled Mardi Gras. I can live without my salvation. I can live without partying. But Seer, I refuse to live without hope. And I hope that's what I've given you. Hope is that little voice in your head that whispers maybe, when the whole world is screaming no. And I don't know about you. My life story is one that I grew up thinking my name was no. Can I go to your school? No. Can I go over there? No. Can I do this? No. You think I can be an engineer? No. You think I can become a PhD? No. They told Danny 9 times no. Many young ladies, I see them now, used to ask them for their phone numbers. You know what they used to tell me? No. Back in the day, they didn't want me, but now since I'm hot, as the rappers say, they all on me. The world might be telling you no, but Sears today telling you yes. Yes, you can. And regardless of your background, or regardless of the curveball that life has thrown at you, realize you got the skills to knock it out the park. We're not going to let no economy, we're not going to let racism, sexism, classism, we're not going to allow elitism, we're not going to allow all the different things that's happening in our world stand in the way of what we are trying to accomplish. That's my dream every day. That's the word that I speak every day. Because in the 21st century, we only have 3 options. In the 21st century, either we're going to take something, break something, and or make something. And Sear, if we don't have the education and the skills to make something, like make a living, make a life, make a difference, that only leaves us with the 2 options that we see on the news every night, and that's to take and break. I don't want that for my 2 sons. I don't want that for the communities that Sear is reaching out to. And we live in a country that doesn't want that for its citizens. So it's incumbent upon all us to get up every day and work like our life depends on it, because not only do our life depend on it, those behind us depend on it. My youngest sister has a beautiful family. She's had the same job for the last 20 years. My younger brother is a guy by the name of Anthony Mackie. You might have heard of him before. He's the Falcon in Marvel comics in the Avengers series. He's an Avenger. He's now Captain America. And we often think about that night when our mother passed away and the tears that he shed and how he was on his knees crying. But he never gave up. He never lost faith. He put in the work. And the only thing we wish now is that our mother was alive to see her son speak to the world. But don't miss the lesson. Don't miss the lesson. If I would have given up, my mom charged me. If I would have given up, if I would not have been steadfast, if I would not have had the right mindset, if I would not have dealt with the assets that came to help me, if I would not have gotten the right skill sets to do the things necessary to help my brother and my sister, I would not only have been killing my dream, I would have been killing their dream too. Sear, never think that this is about you. Danny spoke a word when he said he just want to create a world such that when he's no longer here, the people behind him would have a better way. Sear was created to do that for certain communities. That should be the goal and purpose in all our lives. When we commit to making a better world, not for us, but for people that we care about and people we don't even know, that's when passion will take over and there will be no adversity that can stand between you and what you're trying to accomplish. Sear, we're not here to play the dream to drift. We have hard work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle. Shun not the struggle. 'Tis God's gift. Be strong. Keep pushing and do what you need to do.